you want to stop thinking about pricing in terms of time and start thinking in terms of transformation because clients don't pay an hour for your coaching, they pay for results.
Welcome to the Growth Beyond Hustle podcast.
Today, we are talking about something that can completely transform your business.
Welcome back to Growth Beyond Hustle. Today, we're tackling a massive issue for coaches and consultants, charging your worth with confidence. Too many talented professionals hesitate when it comes to pricing and undervalue their experience or even feel uncomfortable discussing fees. Adrian, why do you think this is such a struggle for so many coaches and consultants?
Well, Kristian, before we hit the record button, we were briefly talking about, I looked at the topic and I was like, wow, this sounds like the former me. I can see why you gave me this topic to talk on because, look, this is something I see all the time. It's something I've experienced. It really comes down to a mixture of imposter syndrome, fear of rejection, and old money beliefs. A lot of people worry that, if they raise their prices, they'll lose clients. Others feel guilty about charging what they, truly deserve. But here's the truth. Underpricing doesn't just hurt your business. It also sends a message that your work isn't valuable.
Yeah, wow, that's really powerful. So, Adrian, how do you help someone shift their mindset and start recognizing their real value?
Well, mate, that's a freaking brilliant question. So, really, the first thing you want to think about is you want to stop thinking about pricing in terms of time and start thinking in terms of transformation, right? Because clients don't pay an hour for your coaching, they pay for results. And that's something that I really struggled with, for many, many years was like having the whole idea of like not charging for your time, but charging for the outcome, right? And so, here's how you can start shifting that mindset. So the first thing is, list the tangible and intangible results that you provide. So for example, can be like financial growth, time savings, could be like reduce stress, and increase confidence, right? They're the tangible things people can experience. Now, the second thing you want to think about is you want to ask yourself, what would it cost your clients not to work with you? So what's the price of staying stuck or staying where you are? That for me was like, a big kick in the teeth. Is like, what is it going to cost them to stay where they are? And some people are happy to stay where they are, right? So, and the third one is compare your pricing to the value that you provide, not the competition. So too many people set prices based on their competitors rather than their unique impact. And I remember this very, very, very clearly in my brain because you and I had a lot of discussions around pricing, with my coaching in the early days, right? Because I was doing a lot of the LinkedIn consulting. I was charging monthly or quarterly.
You were so cheap.
It was so cheap. We worked together for a couple of years, dude. And
Yeah.
and so just by slowly increasing the amounts, I was able to not only, increase the business revenue, but I was able to increase my confidence and the value that I provide based on the transformation that I was giving people.
Huge. So what I love about that is instead of thinking, how much can I charge, right? What people should be thinking is, how much is this transformation worth? And I think that's one of the biggest things that I drove down your throat. It's like, mate, look at the results that you've gotten for me. Look at the results you get for people. And yet you are charging like, $1,000 a month. That's just outrageous. When your clients are making 10 grand a month and you're charging $1,000 a month, it's just poor, right? So I guess it's no different to our business growth outsource, um, using the delegation ladder. And by the way, if anyone wants a copy of it, just drop delegation ladder, or if you're lazy, just ladder, and we'll just send it to you in your inbox, as in like wherever you might be, right? But a lot of people fail to delegate correctly because they have no process. And so, we've saved people bucket loads of time and money that helps them go make more money, and that's just by replacing the jobs that they could get someone else to do at a much lower hourly rate, and also not have to manage those people and worried about all the HR that comes with it. So, all right, look, I'm going to digress. So let's get tactical, right? Our listeners love us getting tactical. How should coaches and consultants go about setting their prices with confidence, Adrian?
Dude, great question. So the key is to take the emotions out of it and be strategic, right? Which is what I learned off you many, many times. You're a strategist, and you're always thinking about those things. And so here's what I recommend. Benchmark against the results and not the hours. So if you have a client, like if you help a client generate, let's just say, an extra 50K, you shouldn't be charging $50 per session. All right. Number two is factor in demand and positioning, right? So if you're consistently booked out, you are too cheap, right? You said that to me in the early days. And I had a lot of clients, a lot. At one point there was 60, 66 or 67 one-to-ones at peak back in 2022, 2021, 2022. That was huge, right? That's when I started getting into the group model. So had to slowly increase. But again, I was just like staying the same. Number three is raise prices gradually. That's some advice that you gave me, which is, hey, look, for these next 5 people, let's raise the price, right? Because you're already busy. So test higher rates with new clients first, and then adjust based on the feedback.
Yeah, amazing. Look, and what if someone is terrified of losing clients when they raise their rates? What would you say to them?
Well, you will lose some clients, and that's okay. That's going to happen, right? So the goal isn't to work with everyone. It's to attract the right clients who value your expertise. Okay. And in fact, higher pricing brings in better, more committed clients who actually follow through and get the results. So for example, when I first got started with the LinkedIn consulting, I was charging $500 a month for one-to-one. And that was, I was working with people, and that wasn't huge money, but it was a good start, especially in online. And I would speak with them once every 2 weeks, once a week initially, and then I'd go to once every 2 weeks. And we would just stay at that, fortnightly, bi-weekly if you're in the US. And that's how I started to increase my pricing over time. All right. And then I found that, those people have stayed with us. They became a LinkedIn client first, coaching, and then they got a virtual assistant with us in Growth Outsource, and they've been with us for years. Since we officially started the company in 2022 or 2021, they've been with us ever since. So that's the power of being able to give someone something, whether it's, like we said before, outcome driven, transformation driven, because it's just a no-brainer.
Amazing. I just one thing you said earlier that really hit home. You will lose some clients, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I remember, because I was the person that said that to you.
Yeah, that's right.
And you were like, I don't want to lose clients. And I said, well, it'll help you attract the right clients. And that's exactly the story you just shared. So thank you, Adrian. I appreciate that. Look, one of the toughest parts of charging more is actually saying the price with confidence.
Mm.
So how did you handle the pricing conversation when
Mm.
we started, getting you to charge more?
Yeah, look, at the time, there wasn't a huge amount of, I guess, competitors. So for me, it was all about confidence and positioning, right? Because not a lot of people actually knew or had a system to be able to generate leads consistently, predictably on LinkedIn, build their brand and all that good stuff, right? So here's what works. One is like state your price as a fact. No hesitation, no apology. My coaching program is 5,000 for 12 weeks, right?
Boom.
Now, here's the thing. One thing I learned was to be comfortable and confident with silence, not going, oh, my coaching program is $5,000 for 12 weeks and you'll blah, 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 right? And you just start trying to back it up with all this stuff. It's being confident and comfortable and pausing, being silent. All those things are skills that you evolve over time by the repetition of doing that.
Huge.
So that's a few, and that's the first one. Now I've kind of, segued into the pausing part, but you really just want to stop talking. Let the client process it. The other thing that I could add to that as well, like we won't get too specific on price here, but people care about like what is the easiest way to get started now. So, for example, now money for people, for a majority of people, is more important than future money. Now, depending on that, you just want to make it easy for someone to get started. You know, if you say, "Hey, it's $10,000 to get started today," well, then most people are not just going to pull 10 grand out, right?
Yeah.
Some people might. The idea is to make it easy for them to get started. Why? Because at the end of the day, what is the outcome you're giving people? You're giving people a transformation. And a transformation, right, is doesn't just happen overnight. As I always reference this. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I've got these perfect eyebrows, but Maybelline says, have you heard it? Many, many years ago, there was this Maybelline ad, right? It won't happen overnight, but it will happen.
No, it was Pantene.
Oh, whatever it is, same thing.
Yeah, it was Pantene. I'm like, Maybelline is Pantene. It won't
Yeah,
happen overnight, but it
close.
will happen.
It won't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then look, you refrain it, or frame it as an investment, right? So it's not just a cost; it's an investment that will help you achieve the outcome that you're looking for. Right?
Amazing. Look,
Yeah, they're just a few key things. I
yeah,
mean, there's more to it, right? And we both know that when you get to know someone, you get to like them. They're an expert in what they do. These conversations with you and I have generated some really great human beings that we work with because it's more than just the price, it's more than just an investment. You've got to actually like the people that you're working with.
yeah, huge. I want to just say something. The silence after stating the price, that is painful, right? But it is so powerful.
Dude, if you rush to justify your price, you're inviting negotiation. So you've got to stand firm.
Yeah. Look, Adrian, last question. Many coaches and consultants have self-limiting beliefs, particularly around money. How can they shift their mindset? Because this is
Ooh.
something that affected you. So maybe yours, I know that you've got some good ideas here. So let's go.
All right. First, you've got to recognize that pricing is not personal, it's business, right? So I'll say it again. Pricing is not personal, it is business. So here's how you can shift that line of thinking. So the first thing is reframe money as energy. When clients pay more, they commit more. Now, in some cases, that's actually not true. In some cases, not true, right? It depends. But essentially, think of money as when you think of money as energy, it's always flowing. So if you stop the flow of money, then guess what happens? Anyway, number two, detach from scarcity. There are more than enough clients who will pay premium prices. I mean, you've only got to look at how
So
many
true.
people in the world, a few billion, growing every day, right? And you're not looking
Seven
to,
7 billion growing
yeah,
at a
that's
rapid
right,
rate. Yeah.
right? And the other thing is, number three is practice saying your price out loud until it feels natural, right? Because confidence,
200,000.
yeah, exactly. Say it with confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I love that. Price isn't just about numbers; it's about owning your worth. And Adrian, this was a gold mine. And before I ask you for final words, I think it's really important to understand. As a strategist, I put a lot of emphasis on pricing, and now we've hit that capacity, and we're currently building, a new website that lists just the products, nothing else, and we're finally going to put the price out there. If someone wants to work with me on a one-on-one basis, it's now a minimum $200,000 a year retainer, and and I can say that like that, and it's
Mm.
not going to deter anyone because my top 5 clients pay that already. So it's not like and I know the money that we've made them, and I think that's what's really important. So when you're dealing with um, pricing, when you're dealing with, know that over time you will understand your own worth.
Mm.
Gone are the days where I would charge $500 an hour. Gone are the days that I would charge $2,500 an hour. I remember I had once had a day rate of $2,000. I mean, I don't get out of bed for $15,000 for the day, and that's including no travel, no allowances, no nothing else. And so, and I think that's where people have to own that space. And there'll be people on this listening to this going, "That's ridiculous." Yeah, but it's ridiculous because you probably own a business that turns over 10 grand a month. But when you're working with someone who turns over 5 million and they want to get to 10, then they need the experience from someone that can get them there. And I have become that person. And I think that's when you finally say it. And the reason I'm only saying it with our audience is to show the truth and the conviction
Mm.
and the way it should be said. Just like when you said it's 5,000, right? When actually, we got your program as high as 8,000 when you were coaching and consulting. And now you're essentially just running growth outsource because we've got that business to a size and scale. And we want to support all of our clients, right? We want to support them so that they can get there. Even though Growth Outsource has got no coaching involvement, it's about getting their admin right, their onboarding right, their marketing right, getting their sales right, so that they can start to lead. And we've created this wicked circular economy across the group, right? Where each one of the businesses actually self-serves or serves every single client. That didn't happen by accident. It was by design. So look, we've had an absolute cracking conversation. Is there any final words for our listeners, Adrian?
Dude, stop playing small. Raise your prices and stand by your value and watch how the right clients start showing up.
Ha, your favorite word. Boom.
Double
That's a
boom.
wrap on today's episode of Growth Beyond Hustle. If you found this valuable, please subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And until next time, from Adrian and I, keep growing. That's a wrap on this episode of Growth Beyond Hustle. We hope you got some real value out of today's conversation on protecting your time and energy. And remember, saying no isn't about shutting doors, it's about making space for the right opportunities. The more you set boundaries, the more you find yourself focused, productive, and in control of your business. If you enjoyed this episode, do us a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you never miss another episode. If you're ready to free up your time, stop wearing all the hats, check out Growth Outsource, our trained virtual assistants, and take those repetitive tasks off your plate so you can focus on what truly matters.